I know, Kitty. I know. You're hungry and you're looking at your bowl. But you're also cutting back because you're becoming a beached well kitty. Because you're overfed and overloved at times. Nothing but showering of love all day. Now, we will play with your new toy, Kitty. 13mm. This thing right here. Yes, Kitty. I am going to turn it on, and you're going to play rather than just eat. Now try it, Kitty, try it. Probably needs more of a snack. Yeah, the West Memphis 3 case is very famous. Paradise Lost is the Netflix documentary that was on Netflix. I'll have to do more research on Paradise Lost. There was a confession, and these kids were freed, I think 18 years later, as men, when the DNA came out and liberated them from this, probably one of the worst or the most monstrous evil acts upon children. The detective Ridge was part of the investigation. This looks like it's Misskelly, which is the one that confessed and was freed. Look at the case number. I don't know if that was conducted by, well, it was conducted by the West Memphis Police Department. They chose this case number. See how they get? See how they use even a file number to work in their advantage in this case. This will have to be investigated more and more and more throughout history, and has changed the face of law, the West Memphis 3 case. You have to get all the names right. It's a lot of material. But Paradise Lost is the name of the documentary. And then they have a sequel to Paradise Lost, which is on Netflix. Scott on Tape has recently done a follow-up vlog, a video log of this incident that took place in West Memphis. They were all 3 found on murder charges, and 2 were given life in prison, and 1 was given the death penalty. I believe his name was Eccles. And they were all freed 18 years later as men. This was all done when they were boys. And nobody knows the exactness of it. No one knows exactly what happened. And it could be one of those cases where only God knows. This will be continued to be investigated, probably for the next 100 years. It'll be in all the history books, especially in college, in legal history. It'll be in investigative crime history. It'll be in criminal science, or what they call forensic science history. This case is probably one of the most mysterious cases, and it's Paradise Lost is the name of the documentary. The West Memphis 3. And look at the file number, if that's even the real file number. This is a documentary post. I'll show you the post that was done. I believe this was done for YouTube.
Misskelly.
This is it, yeah. It's Jesse Misskelly Jr. first taped confession, which was done June 3rd of 1993. It was an audio confession. There they are, right there. And they're now free because of DNA. No DNA was tied to what happened in this case. If you go down here, you'll see they've they've got thousands of YouTube posts talking about the West Memphis 3. It was a death row case. He was sentenced to death row right here. That's Echoes. Or Eccles. Eccles is his name. Echoes. Who he would, while in death row, he would practice some type of meditation because he waited to die there for 18 years. He's also a father now. And I believe all three of them are fathers to something. But they are free. And according to DNA, they are innocent. So it's a mysterious case. Check it out on Netflix, though. This was done right here by IC Map. This confession right here was done by this guy right here. It was posted by this guy. That's the detective that was behind the case, and this will give you all the information about it. Check it out. Note to vlogger, as in video log-er. Vlogger. Note to vlog-er. Not to filmmaker, but to vlogger. The hardest part of the entire vlog is the smallest thing, and it's releasing it. You will learn the tiniest part of it, as in the tag. You can put a tag on your vlog if you're doing it through YouTube. So this is the YouTube vlogger. So the tag is very difficult to figure out. You have to hit return, or they say enter or go, and you'll tag it. I do initials PSS, and then I hit return, and then it solidifies in there, and it's ready to release, and I can have it ready to release before I go from private to public. Another hard thing, when you have it all up there on private, release it to public in the order that you want them to watch it, or they'll just do nonlinear, which they can do nonlinear because Quentin Tarantino taught that in Pulp Fiction, right? You can have non-linear editing. But if you have Spectrum, you're going to be doing this stuff. You're going to be doing 20-minute shows, 20 to 30-minute shows at the most. If you have Frontier, you'll do an hour-and-a-half show, because Frontier will allow you to release an hour-and-a-half show until Spectrum steps up their plan and allowing people to have, like 500 megabytes download or 500 megabytes upload or whatever they sell. So if you're slower internet speed, you'll have a show that's 20 minutes, unless you have very, very fast internet speed and you're a genius and you want to have 20-minute shows, right? Depends on how you want your show to be released. But when it goes, if you release, let's say you have 7 shows. I released 7 shows today. I'm going to release them from private to public in the order I want them to watch it. If you mess up, you can't go back and fix it unless you delete it and then re-upload it. And you don't want to have to delete 7 shows. So very hyper-focus when you're releasing the show from private to public, or if you just release it all on public. Another thing too, it can all be chaotic, or it can be order. Now, if you're Catholic, you're going to want a very orderly show. If you're a Catholic. If you're Protestant, it's going to be a little rougher. And then if you're something else, you won't even care. It's my own personal belief. If you're Catholic, you're listening to every single word I say and how I say it and the pronunciation. If you're Protestant, you don't care how it sounds, as long as it comes out with your heart. Meaning as long as you have heart behind it. The Catholic will judge that statement because I use the word heart. The Protestants work from the heart. The other guys, the the have-nots, they don't care the order of any of it. They're all pretty much kind of genius and all over the place. The Einsteins, as I say. So you see what I'm saying? Protestant, it could be mispronounced as long as you have heart and you believe in it. Catholic, every single word will be analyzed. Here I stand. I'm actually on my couch, though. Here, let me stand up.
Here I stand, baby. Or just here I stand.
All right, this is posted by Alex J. Heidel. He's got 11,000 views. It was 2 years ago. In this section of it, in this ballpark figure right here, it's at 10:58. This is a confession that was given by Jesse Misskelly Jr., who was supposedly the mentally challenged child that they interviewed. It was a teenager. And we don't know the validity, but they do ask Misskelly where the children, the victims, there were 3 children that were killed in Robin Hood Hills. They ask him, where did they lay the bikes? And Misskelly doesn't know. Or Mr. Misskelly didn't know. He did not know where the bikes were laid. They have photographs of where the bikes were. The bikes were laid on the piping. This is a horrible murder that happened. And he asked him where, because this was all recorded, I think, in one thread. They don't know for sure, but it sounds like it was recorded in one long thread. And they asked him, where were the bikes laid? The bicycles, and he doesn't know the answer. It was all led by this detective, Ridge. He talks about the east side of Memphis, or Blue Beacon, I believe. He's talking about where things are. He's trying to get a time, a place, and all this stuff from this child, but he does not know where the bikes were laid. It's a very intense investigation, or what it is it's an interrogation, so that they could get murder charges on all 3 of these teenagers. Damien Eccles, I believe is how you pronounce his name, was on death row for it. And that's Jason Baldwin, and that's Misskelly. So I'm listening to it right now. This guy's got a ton of stuff on it. Alex J. Heidel, a ton of investigation. Scott on Tape has just covered this a few hours ago. I think he released it yesterday. I don't know exactly when he did the coverage on it, but he released it yesterday. It's an interesting, very interesting case. And to this day, it's a mystery. So a case could be solved, and I'm going to try to get the time on it, on what people say. They solved the case right here. At 11 minutes and 51 seconds, Detective Ridge asked the assailant, Misskelly, a simple question, which later freed the boys, and the DNA helped too. And I'm going to get it right here. Here's what he asked him, right here. Okay, hang on for 1 second. You're gonna have to hang on for a second. The Catholics don't like that dishwasher going, but the Protestants don't mind it. We're gonna find it right here. 11 minutes and 46 seconds. This was a lead interrogation, and this is what freed him. Misskelly said, and Misskelly is a young boy, and we'll get to his full legal name. His date of birth is on this and everything. They laid their bikes down when they came out to when they hollered for them to come out there. Hey, Detective Ridge asked him right here, where did they lay their bikes down at? That's what I'm asking. Now you can find fraud in grammar. Where did they lay their bikes down at? But that's not what got them free, though. That's what I'm asking. This is from the detective. This answer, I don't know. They laid their bikes down on the piping. They have photograph of it. He would have known that. He would have known that. Even a special kid would have known that they laid the bicycles down on the special piping that went over the water. Okay, it was almost like a bridge. I don't know where they laid their bikes down at, Misskelly says, because I was behind Damien and them. Who's them? There was only one other kid that was with them named Jason Baldwin. All of this is a lie. And then way, way behind them, you can clearly tell immediately that this confession is a lie, to my knowledge. I don't know where they laid their bikes down at, because I was behind and them. He also says this, where did they lay their bikes down at? That's what I'm asking. He answers, I don't know. He didn't know. So later on, 18 years later, this right here got those kids, this false confession got those kids. And one of them, Damien Echols, should be dead on death row. They were all innocent. They were released. They were what's called exonerated. And they were liberated from prison. Now their lives are hell. I'm sure they're dealing with it because some people think they still did it. But they were released and proven not guilty because of DNA evidence that helped them so that now they can walk free. But you can clearly see that he did not know where those bikes were. There's another assailant that's out there somewhere. They saw supposedly there was a man at Bojangles, dark-complected man covered in blood that walked into the bathroom and washed the blood off right there in Bojangles, which is now a different restaurant. Bojangles is near Blue Beacon. And this happened in West Memphis. West Memphis 3. It all took place in Arkansas, West Memphis, Arkansas, for all you geologists. So this case right here will continue to be studied. But according to the confession, he doesn't know where they placed the bikes. And this is, for my knowledge, the confession was done all in one take in the recording. So when Detective Ridge would ask him a question, he would have to, in real time, answer the question. He'd ask him another question. In real time, Misskelly would answer the question. Detective Ridge would ask a question. Misskelly would answer the question. He would ask another question, and Misskelly would answer the question, right? He says here, I don't know where they laid their bikes. He would have known, because the bikes were laid. This is why God is a good God. God is a good God. Okay, whether we have perfect diction or not, God is a good God. Okay, and we know where they laid their bikes. They laid their bicycles on a bridge that was basically out of piping. It was a piping bridge, meaning it was a bridge of piping. They laid their bicycles on that piping bridge that goes over the water. He would have known that. It was a lie. And now, the children that are now men, 18 years later, they were teenagers when they were accused of the crime. And Damien Echols went to death row to die a criminal's death and was freed because the truth will always prevail. There are people that have died on death row that are absolutely innocent. And this is a case where it almost happened. Damien survived, and the other 3 children that were accused survived. But the smaller children, those babies were killed. And they were killed by someone we don't know. But let me tell you something for sure. The devil was involved. All right, so we have another flub. This happened at 13 minutes and 53 seconds in Jesse Misskelly Jr.'s confession, which they have determined as a false confession. So, Detective Ridge says it was like early in the day, but you don't know exactly what time. Okay, because I've got some real confession with the times you're telling me. Confusion. Sorry. but it was like early in the day. He's leading him right here. So Misskelly was led through the confession for more than 35 minutes. If this was done in one take in the recording, this is the second flub. I catch the second flub, or what I say, falsity, at 13 minutes and 53 seconds, right in the middle of this confession. He says it right here. But it was like early in the day, but you don't know exactly what time, okay? Because I've got some real confusion with the times you're telling me. But now, this 9 o'clock in the evening call that you got, explain that to me. And Misskelly says, well, after all of this stuff happened that night, they done it. And he says, okay. So he's trying to get him to work with him so that he will give him the right information. This is a crime. Now, did Detective Ridge suffer for this? Did Detective Ridge go to prison for this? No, because Detective Ridge was trying to do his job. And he put 3 innocent children in prison for 18 years. He would have got a medal. But it was like early in the day, but you don't know exactly what time, okay? Because I got some real confusion with the times you're telling me. But now, this 9 o'clock in the evening call that you got, explain that to me. He changes it right here. Why didn't Detective Ridge figure it out? He asked him earlier, do you wear a watch? Let's see if we can find that. I know this will make the vlog go a little longer. I'm put it on quiet so that we can just focus on the wording. Your time period might not be exactly right, what you're saying. That's usually how they find out there's a mishap in a confession. And then Mr. Misskelly says, right, Detective Ridges. But it was like early in the day, but you don't know exactly what time, okay? Because we got some real confusion with the times you're telling me. But now this is 9 o'clock in the evening. Call that you got, explain that to me. Now somewhere in here, in this whole confession, he asked him, you know, this was never investigated until 18 years. They had spent 18 years in prison because they didn't go back and listen to the confession. And look, a scammer will never use proper English. A scammer will never have the right English. There it is. Do you not wear a watch? Come on. You can clearly tell this is all fiction. It's not fiction. This is the real interrogation. It's been put in words. Listen to it. Listen to it for a second. It's public information.
Yeah. You don't know what time it is?
Do you not wear a watch?
So,
My dad woke me up this morning.
your time...
My dad woke me up this morning. You can clearly tell they're almost joking around. But they put all 3 of them in prison for 18 years. And Damian Eccles would have been murdered by the state of Arkansas. He was on death row by lethal injection, but he got out of it because this is false. This was a false confession.
Time period might not be exactly right what you're saying.
Right.
But it was like early in the day, but you don't know exactly what time. Okay. Because I've got some real confusion with the times you're telling me. But now, this 9 o'clock in the evening call that you've got, explain that to me.
Well, after all the stuff happened that night that they done it,
Okay.
I went home about noon, and they called me at 9 o'clock that night.
Listen to the
They
response.
called me.
Okay. And what did they tell you on the telephone?
They asked me how come I left so early and stuff. And I told them I couldn't stay there watching it no more, so I had to do something to get out of there.
Okay. Who called you?
Jason,
And you mentioned you heard some voice in the background.
I heard some things.
And what else? I think you said that he made the call from his house.
He made a call from his house, and Damien was hollering in the background and said, we done it, we done it. What we gonna do if somebody saw us? What we gonna do?
Okay. Now, the
So
knives.
they told Misskelly he would die from lethal injection. That's what they told Misskelly. That you will die of lethal injection. You will die of the lethal injection, Jason Misskelly Jr. You will die of lethal injection, J.C. Misskelly Jr. You will die of lethal injection, Jesse Misskelly Jr. That's what they told him. That you will die on death row. You'll die a criminal's death. And he came up with a story to save his life. And that's called a false confession. Of course they're going to give him the death penalty. They would have gave all three the death penalty. They love killing people. This is all about murder and sodomy. He talks about sodomy and murder. Jesse Misskelly, you will die of lethal injection if you do not tell the truth, is what they told him. Then he went back and cooked up this story, framing Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, and himself so that he could live. Now, they all lived in prison for 18 years, and Damien Echols lived on death row to die. You can't think of more torture. And all they had to do was investigate this lie. Do you have a knife? I got one knife. Where's it at? It's at home. You could tell right here the whole thing is a crock of bullcrap. It'd be a bad play. Heck, if you turn this in as a play, they'd go, look, I can see lies all over the place. It'd make a really good, fictional, art comedy. But obviously, these guys were innocent. All right, so we have another problem. About 18 minutes and 38 seconds, really is about 18 minutes and 37 seconds, you have a break in tape. This is a confession. So it's not even complete. It's not one take. It was only 18 minutes and 37 seconds or so, around that time, 18 minutes and 36 seconds, or around that ballpark figure, where there's a break in the tape. He's getting very, very crazy in the description of what they did to the children, and then they have to stop. Now, I don't know if it was erased. Like, this has to be a lie, right? Somewhere in here. Like, there's no way they could have done this physically, right? And all this stuff. Here's my theory if it was done by one. Okay, they think they saw a man that was dark complected at a place called Bojangles, which was like a restaurant that's no longer called that. But back then it was called that. He came in, he was covered in blood, used the bathroom, and then left. He was like a wanderer. Basically the devil himself. And if this one guy did it, he would have knocked out two of the boys, ran after the other one probably, and brought him back to the scene. Because Misskelly kind of gave the idea during the confession, because that's what he supposedly did. He ran after one of the boys and brought him back. That's what he says right there. He doesn't say it right here. He says it in the confession, right here in this confession. In this whole confession that goes on for quite a bit of time. It goes on for about 35 minutes and 20 seconds. Done with Detective Ridge and Misskelly. So this is all about the West Memphis 3 and Jesse Misskelly Jr. So every time I say Misskelly, I'm saying Jesse Misskelly. They misspelled it right here. Or they misspelled it right there. We'll have to find out the real spelling. Regardless, there's another leading, if you know that in courtroom, where someone's leading the witness, okay? You can see that right here. He says, I would say it was about that big around. I would say about that long. He's talking about a stick. What? Did they stick, or what? Did they stick look like, was it like a big log? Like that? Because he's asking not Damien, but he's asking Jesse Misskelly about Damien and if he had a big old stick. which, you know, wouldn't make sense because in the beginning part of the confession, if you listen to it, Jesse Misskelly describes Damien as punching one of the boys, and then all of a sudden the stick comes, this magical stick, and if you ever look at it, it's in a field. There's no real, like, magical baseball-sized sticks, because later on he'll talk about a baseball bat. A big old stick when he hit that first one, after he hit him with his fist and knocked him down, and then he got him a big old stick and hit him, Detective Gritchell says. What did the stick look like? I mean, was it like a big log like that, or is it a stick? And then Jesse Misskelly says, I'd say was about that big around, or I'd say about that long. And Detective Gitchell goes, okay. And Detective Ridge says, about the size of a baseball bat. But he says it like this, about the size of a baseball bat, maybe just a little bit bigger around. And Miss Kelly says, about so. So they're leading him, telling him. But he says, well, that's what you described. That's what you described with your hands, right? Well, what did he jump up and do a full mime of describing exactly how long? A baseball bat is, you know, it could be as long as a screen. He didn't do that. Can you imagine that? In the interview, can you imagine him going, well, it was about the size of a baseball bat. About the size of a baseball bat. He didn't do that. People don't do that. And they probably have a video recording of all of this. I hope they do. This guy should do some time. But he won't. Now, after all, he was just trying to do his job. But he should. He should do some time so he knows how it feels. They spent 18 years in prison. Jason Misskelly and Damien Echoes and Jason Baldwin spent 18 years in prison. And Damien Echoes spent, 18 years of that on death row. Does Detective Ridge know how that? Detective Ridge will turn in his lethal sidearm and his badge. Stop pressuring people to go to prison and be sodomized.